John Proctor is the Villain is a new play written by Kimberly Belflower. It opened on Broadway last year and is currently finishing its run in London at the Royal Court Theatre. This play is set in 2018 during the height of the Me Too movement in rural America in a high school classroom where students who are studying the Crucible are starting to realise that John Proctor might not actually be the hero. The Crucible is a text commonly studied in schools in America and the UK, and I'm sure other countries across the world, and for a long time it has been understood that John Proctor is the hero and Abigail is the villain. But this play has the students really analysing that with the information that they have available to them now, and gets them to question whether they really believe that. What these students don't foresee is how these discussions surrounding the Crucible and overall feminism are actually going to become intimately intertwined with their own lives. My first thoughts of this production before I even saw it, just when I first heard about it, before there was hype or press or anything surrounding it, the name alone sold it to me. For a long time I have felt John Proctor is the villain. I've never really been able to understand how people see him as the hero. That's never made sense to me. I only saw it on stage for the first time last year, but I have read it previously and I know the story. I also didn't understand why Abigail was supposed to be the bad guy or the bad girl, and so just hearing a play titled John Proctor is the Villain instantly had me hooked, because I agree, and I've never heard anybody talk about that. It's fantastic to see the shift in understanding actually being discussed and acknowledged, and these ideas being challenged, especially in the context of the Me Too movement, which is at its peak when this play takes place. If you've previously read or seen The Crucible and you thought John Proctor was the hero and Abigail was the villain, you know what, I think that's okay. A lot of us were taught that, especially in previous decades when feminism wasn't spoken about quite as much, when women's bodily autonomy wasn't spoken about quite as much as it is now. Lots of people were taught by their teachers, and so that's what they believed. But if that is you, I really think you should see this play, because this play will challenge you to think about it differently. I'm going to start off with the set. That is the first thing we see in the play. The whole show takes place in this one classroom, so nothing really changes. A classroom itself seems like a relatively simple setting. It doesn't seem like there'd be anything too complex to design. However, if you go into any primary or high school classroom, or elementary or middle school classroom if you're in the US, you will notice lots of really little details, posters on the walls, bits of writing, work displayed, different pens scattered all over the place, pencil pots, notebooks piled up on the table. You will notice lots of little details, and these are all captured in this set design. It really feels like a classroom that I was in, and I've heard a lot of people say that it feels like a classroom that they went to school in as well, which I think really shows how well the set has been designed. Another really great addition to the set is that we have two doors, both on the same side. If you're sat in the audience, they will be on the left, so they are on stage right, and that is how all of the actors enter and exit the stage. We don't see any wings. We don't see the actors coming in or out of any wings. Instead of wings, it is classroom doors, and I think that's a really well thought out addition, and it really works on the stage as well. It doesn't feel awkward or misplaced, or like we watch them exit the classroom and then exit the stage. It's all very seamless and very well done. There is one scene towards the end where one of the characters goes into the classroom and she doesn't shut the door behind her. Now this might not seem like anything major, but in every single scene before that, when the students have gone into the classroom, they have shut the door behind them. And so for this scene, for this one student to go into the classroom and not shut the door behind her, makes a really powerful statement. And again, if we didn't have the classroom doors as our stage entrance and exit, then they wouldn't have been able to have this powerful statement made by leaving the door open. So whilst that also comes into the directing and the performers, that is very much only able to happen because of the set design. The directing is fantastic. There's some really powerful imagery between the actors, things that would make incredible photos, and you only need to have a look through the programme to see some of those fantastic photos. There's also a really great use of levels. Obviously it's a classroom, so we do have desks and chairs. We even have a little sofa in the corner, which seems as if it's supposed to be a sort of comfortable safe space for the students to go to when they need a bit of a breather. So we see a great use of levels, we see a great use of space, the way the characters are placed on the desk. It's all really well thought out, and the directing of the actual actors, again, fantastic, really well thought out, really strong, powerful imagery and movement, brilliant. The whole cast, there are 9 of them, are incredible. They all give really strong, really emotive performances, and they really do the characters justice. There are, however, two particular standout performances for me, and that is Sadie Soverall as Shelby and Holly Howden-Gilchrist as Beth. Shelby probably has the biggest character arc in terms of the kind of things that she experiences and has to deal with. However, Beth also has quite the character arc because a lot of her beliefs are challenged, as are the beliefs of other characters in the show. But for Beth, it's particularly interesting to watch. Both Beth and Shelby are the kind of students that often in school would be ostracised. Beth because she's a bit of a nerd, she's super passionate about English literature and reading and books. She always does the work, she always does the homework, she is super on the ball and she just really enjoys it. But she's not ostracised, she's not portrayed as an odd kid, and she's not even portrayed as a nerd. She's just portrayed as someone who is really passionate about the thing that she loves, which in this case is books and literature, and her friends accept that. She is part of the friendship group. She's no more and she's no less than the others. Shelby, on the other hand, is a character that I found myself relating to. A character like Shelby would often be ostracised in schools because she's too intense, or as she says, the adults call her a lot. She's been branded as crazy, untrustworthy, dramatic, intense, all of these things which actually are often applied to women who speak up. But because Shelby has been branded as all of these things historically, when she does experience these things that happen in the show, it adds a whole nother layer to her trying to figure out how on earth to navigate it. And I think Sadie Soverall does that really well. In terms of the characters written by Kimberly Belflower, there are 2 teachers and 7 students. And the students in particular, I feel like it would be so easy to stereotype them almost, because in schools you do often have this set idea of certain types of kids. I mean, we've all seen the likes of Mean Girls or other films where you've got like the popular pretty girls, you've got the jocks, you've got the nerds, etc. Stereotypes that, to be honest, are outdated and not particularly helpful. But there's no stereotyping here with these characters, despite the fact that our 5 girls in particular all have very, very different personalities. They are still fully formed characters and not characters drawn from stereotypes. This story is essential. Every single girl deserves to watch this. I wish I'd had this story when I was a teenager, even if I hadn't had access to watching the play. I wish it was something that I'd studied in class. I think having access to this show when I was a teenager would have been huge. It would have really helped me understand things that were going on for me or things that were going on for my friends. And I think every single girl deserves to have access to this. I think every boy as well should watch it or read it for educational purposes. We all know the best way to prevent violent men or abusive men is to prevent boys from becoming them at all. To stop the boys in their tracks when they're still young and still have the chance to change. When I was at school, I'm in the UK, we studied books like Frankenstein, Animal Farm, Jekyll and Hyde, and whilst I love those stories and they are super important stories, I think John Proctor is the Villain is even more important. And I know that is a bold statement to make because the themes in some of those stories that I've mentioned are crucial for helping young people understand human relationships and how to analyze situations and think for themselves. But I think John Proctor is the Villain is the top of that list. I think it should be the top of that list. I think it should be in every high school across the country, every high school across the world, but I know obviously a lot of countries have children with no access to education systems because in the UK we are very lucky that education is free. Now, with this play being a discussion surrounding the possibility of John Proctor actually being the villain, you can potentially imagine some of the themes that might surround that and some of the themes that the girls might end up having to deal with in their own personal lives. So of course, some of the main themes are sexual abuse and grooming. And this is quite a big focus in the play and it's a really important focus. But this play, even though it doesn't explicitly touch on other types of abuse or grooming or exploitation, it still very much applies to them because there are a lot of similarities and a lot of crossovers in the way that these things happen. In terms of this play being an educational resource on abuse, grooming, exploitation, I don't think it would just be an educational resource on sexual forms. I think it would be a great educational resource on psychological and physical and even other forms of abuse, exploitation and grooming. Things which are terrifyingly very common with young people being some of the biggest targets. If you have found yourself ever affected by abuse or grooming in whatever form that might be, whether that's you've been a victim, somebody that you love has been a victim, maybe somebody you love has been accused of it. However, grooming and abuse has affected you in the past, or in the current, I think this show will resonate strongly, and I also think it will provide catharsis. Obviously, it's no replacement for therapy or anything like that, but that doesn't mean it can't go alongside it. My personal immediate response after seeing the show was, it's so hard to describe. I've seen loads of shows that made me feel loads of different ways, but I have never ever seen a show that has made me feel like this. I'm not a crier, never cried at a show in my life. That makes me sound cold. I'm not cold. I feel things deeply. It just doesn't come out as crying. It comes out, I guess, in other ways for me. But the end scene of this show is one of the most powerful things I have ever seen in theatre. It had me crying. In fact, it had me at the point where I was having to control my breathing, because if I didn't, I was going to be really loudly, ugly crying, and no one else in the audience needs that. And I'm sure I wasn't the only one in the audience feeling that either. But it was incredibly powerful, incredibly cathartic. It almost felt slightly healing. And there was a part of me that felt like I was there on that stage with those girls, getting to stand up to the predators myself. I was just watching. I was just in the audience. But there was a part of me that felt in that moment like those girls were real and I was with them and I was getting to take my stand too. And I have never ever ever felt anything even close to that. But just to even feel that for a minute or two. I mean, it gives me shivers now thinking about it. It's such a personal thing, and obviously everybody will react differently, but it's not something I will ever forget, and I'm incredibly grateful that I did get to experience that. Yes, it is heavy, it is intense, it is tough, it sits on your chest like a really heavy weight, but it is also like this really big release. Obviously it's about to finish in London, but it's been announced earlier in the week that it is going to the West End next year from the start of February to the end of April at the Wyndham's Theatre. I highly recommend seeing it. More than any show I've ever seen before. I will be going back to see it. I think a lot of people will be going back to see it. A lot of people will be going to see it the first time. I reckon the run might sell out just like the Royal Court run did. So if you do want to see it, don't leave it too long. I truly believe there is nobody in this world who wouldn't benefit from watching this show or reading the play. Not only because it is educational, it will challenge the way you think, it will increase your understanding of the world around you, of your own experiences. It will help you be a better ally to women and girls. So if you only see one show at the theatre in your whole entire life, please make it this one. And if you can't see it, read it. You can get the play text, you can give it a read. You don't even have to read it all in one go. Read it bit by bit. Some of the stage directions in there are really well written. They're not traditionally written stage directions. They are written with emotion and empowering language, and you have to read it for yourself to really understand. But the stage directions for the very end scene are nearly 3 pages long. Nearly 3 pages long, no dialogue, just 2 and a bit pages of pure stage directions, but they're written as part of the story, and it is some of the most beautifully written stage directions. I've never seen stage directions written like this. They are beautiful, and the director really understood what was written here. What's written here is exactly what we saw on stage, and the actors brought it to life perfectly. The whole creative team on this play did a fantastic job. I mean, an incredible job at bringing to life Kimberly Belflower's vision. This play, John Proctor is the Villain, feels like the start of a revolution. If you liked this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps me out. I post theatre reviews, theatre vlogs, and other theatre related videos. I also post lots of videos on my YouTube shorts and TikTok, so do go and check those out. But for now, are you going to be part of the revolution?